Hi, my name is Charity, and if you are a mom, you're likely busy beyond belief. Probably just need a break and maybe even a laugh. As a mom myself, I admit it can be difficult to find friends or maintain current friendships due to the demands of family schedule, work, and everything in between. So I created this space for moms to enjoy, have a laugh, commiserate, and catch a few tips along the way. We'll cover everything from hormones to headlines and parental grit to beauty tips, along with snippets of wisdom that have only come through my own experience as a mom. And I will already tell you straight up, I have very little figured out. But there are some real facts about motherhood that need to be said and understood about working moms, stay-at-home moms, and just postpartum women in general. Welcome to Beyond the Glow. Today, we are talking about postpartum depression, a highly controversial and widely misunderstood issue that many mothers experience, but few talk about due to the social stigma. If you Google sanity, because who owns a dictionary anymore, right? I know I don't and haven't for years. You will find the following: the ability to think and behave in a normal and rational manner, sound mental health. But what exactly is considered normal? And how does one even begin to define something so subjective to one's own perception and experience? Thus, I have to default to sound mental health. Both unfortunately and fortunately, this happens to be in my wheelhouse. I completed my master's degree a few years ago in professional counseling. And while it seemingly is fortuitous, it does have its drawbacks. It's fortunate because I academically know I am sane, so one would think because of my education and knowledge of what true mental health disorders look like, that I would have sailed through postpartum issues like a champ. And that's when it gets unfortunate. It's actually the opposite. Kind of like when you research WebMD with a list of your symptoms, you will always diagnose yourself with the worst possible thing. And it's no different with your mental health. So back to the fortunate part, due to my educational background, I was able to recognize that I was experiencing baby blues and anxiety. And then I was able to employ the handy dandy techniques that I learned in school to help myself navigate the emotional roller coaster. So it was a big win for me there. And here are 10 things that worked for me when I was really struggling. I hope this helps you. Number one, counseling. And I did take the baby. So if scheduling's an issue, that's not an issue for counseling. Natural mood supplements, evening primrose, or St. John's wort. St. John's wort will likely interfere with birth control, so just proceed with caution there. Then third, sunshine. Connecting with my friends who are moms, postpartum moms group, joining a ladies small group through church or other activities. All these are really great options. Moving my body also helped me immensely, along with doing something I love, even if it's only for a short time. And then, of course, loving on baby and being silly with her. It's always going to be a huge mood booster. These really helped restore some sanity in some really practical ways and helped to get me into a rhythm of a structured routine of healthy habits. Of course, this was just the beginning. There are so many other areas to tackle, which I will cover in my upcoming series, The Postpartum Life. Speaking of postpartum, ever go to get something from another room, segue to a topic mid-conversation, or go back into the house to retrieve an item you forgot, and upon arriving, feel like someone has hijacked your thoughts? Oh yes, y'all know what I'm talking about. It's mom brain, and it's real. And what is even the deal with this? I thought by now I wouldn't be dealing with this as much, but it does happen all the time to me. Even now, 4 years postpartum. This is a daily occurrence and sometimes multiple times a day for me. And at times, I wonder if I literally lost brain cells along with the placenta. Is it just me, or do your significant others think you're losing it? I seriously have even considered ginkgo biloba. Does anyone know if it works? Y'all got to let me know what has worked for you in the comments. I really appreciate those comments. It definitely will help me immensely. Well, I do have some good news. I learned that when mom brain happens, our brains are just optimizing cognitive functions for caregiving. So you're not crazy. Your brain is expanding its capacity. We're going to do a bit of a deep dive into this, so stick with me. There's some good stuff here, so stick it out. So what is it? For my fellow science nerds out there, the term mom brain refers to the cognitive and emotional changes that occur in mothers during and after pregnancy and childbirth. These changes are often characterized by symptoms such as forgetfulness, mental fog, mood swings, which are attributed to hormonal fluctuations and neuroplasticity. The vocabulary word of the day, neuroplasticity. In case you're wondering, neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout life, enabling learning, adaptation, and recovery from injuries. According to the News Medical Life Sciences article, Is Mom Brain Real? The Science Behind Memory, Mood, and Motherhood, this maternal brain reorganization, or brain plasticity, is not confined to only pregnancy or the immediate postpartum period, with evidence of motherhood-linked structural remodeling persisting for 6 years or more. Can you believe that? 6 years! Most women, particularly first-time mothers, report memory and attention decline consistent with the mom brain syndrome. However, objective evidence for the condition remains weak and inconsistent. In fact, researchers have failed to identify any objective cognitive deficits, even 1 year postpartum. Despite limited supporting data, the prevailing hypothesis within the scientific community is a neurocognitive trade-off rather than a holistic cognitive decline. The maternal brain reallocates resources towards infant-related stimuli. Amazing. This manifests as enhanced emotional salience for infant cues, heightened threat detection, and improved empathy. In contrast, attention to less salient and non-infant-related tasks is significantly reduced. So essentially, the most noticeable or important infant-related tasks will be the primary focus of the new mom, which may come off as ignorance of other tasks. However, her brain is simply reallocating all of its resources to be sure the infant is cared for, while her brain is expanding its capacity to include other things. I can personally attest that this was my experience as a new mom. I could not multitask to save my life. Things I juggled with ease prior to birth, I just couldn't after I gave birth. And while my brain did expand to include other things, it took a good while for me. I started feeling a little more like myself around the 2-year mark, although I still dealt with some issues into year 3. And all this is really fascinating stuff, but I think what everyone wants to know is what is causing it and what can we do about it? The News Medical Life Sciences article states that neuroimaging studies leveraging magnetic resonance imaging technologies have revealed widespread reductions in gray matter volume in pregnant women, with this change persisting for at least 2 years postpartum. Notably, these reductions are concentrated in specific neural networks previously associated with social cognition and the theory of mind, which include the anterior and posterior cortex precuneus, superior temporal gyrus, and inferior frontal gyrus. These morphological changes represent an adaptive process of synaptic pruning and specialization that enhances neural efficiency to meet the complex demands of motherhood, with these processes analogous to the brain remodeling that occurs during adolescence. And this, my friends, is why we feel crazy after babies. Relative gray matter volume changes have been correlated with the quality of postpartum maternal attachment, thus highlighting direct links between brain reorganization and caregiving behavior. In summary, this hypothesis states that less gray matter is correlated with the occurrence of mom brain, which is essentially your brain reallocating all of its resources for caregiving tasks. This includes pruning synapses to enhance the brain's processing power so that it can use less of its resources and thereby operate more efficiently. This may be an oversimplification, but that is how I am understanding it. So, what can be done? Although I doubt we can altogether eliminate it, the good news is that there is something to be done to improve mom brain. First off, sleep matters. I know, but how do we get more sleep with all we are juggling, especially if baby isn't sleep trained or if you're co-sleeping? And I am going to get to that, but first, here is why it matters. The success of functional reorganization, neuroplasticity, is highly dependent on environmental inputs such as stress and sleep. Sleep and mood regulation have a strong bidirectional relationship, with extreme postpartum associated sleep disruption capable of dysregulating the same systems undergoing remodeling. Basically, no sleep and high stress will disrupt all the work your brain is doing to expand its capacity and dysregulate the systems the brain is working on. Further, chronic sleep deprivation can lead to hyperactivity of the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, resulting in elevated cortisol levels and impaired function of the prefrontal cortex and hippocampus. Can anyone say hello, unexplained weight gain? That's right. Higher cortisol levels are associated with weight gain and the clinging of belly fat, even when working out and eating right. So if your hormones are out of whack, you can say goodbye to all your precious fitness gains. Also, the prefrontal cortex is responsible for executive functioning, memory, attention, emotional regulation, impulse control, emotional responses, and moral behavior, and is often referred to as the personality center of the brain. So if this is impaired, it could disrupt your whole life, leading to some devastating consequences if not remedied. To add to this party, systemic inflammation and disruptions in monoaminergic neurotransmitter systems that affect serotonin and cortisol levels are other known consequences of poor sleep, all of which can destabilize normal emotional responses and mood stability. Together, these processes create a positive feedback loop wherein poor sleep exacerbates stress and inflammation, which further disrupts sleep and increases the risk of perinatal mood disorders. Enter postpartum depression. And I am speaking from experience. The problem for me started with the chronic sleep disruption and just unraveled from there. I'd already been dealing with chronic pain before pregnancy, but the sleep issues took that to an unmanageable level. It was crazy, resulting in major bouts of physical pain that made getting out of bed in the morning nearly impossible at times. And unfortunately, it was a 3 long year struggle with postpartum depression for me. And let me be clear, not everyone experiencing mom brain is going to experience postpartum depression, and I certainly hope it's not on the level that I experienced it, but long-standing symptoms of depression or depression that comes and goes regularly prior to pregnancy increase a mom's risk of postpartum depression, and one can reduce the risk by the severity of the occurrence by establishing a peaceful environment for lower stress levels and practicing habits conducive to better sleep. So now back to how we get more sleep when we can't add hours to the day or force our child to stop waking up in the middle of the night. One practical step I wish I had taken sooner was transitioning my daughter's bed to a bed I could also sleep in. It was just like life-changing when we did that. This works best for littles who are holding up their head, pushing up, rolling over, and sitting on their own. And there are really great bed bumpers you can install on most beds to provide rollover protection. But the primary thing is making sure they can push themselves up and not get stuck face down, as they can suffocate. If you do choose a larger bed, make sure it is low enough to the ground to be sure they can get up and down easily. But like I said, it was super life-changing when we did transition. I was able to establish a more consistent bedtime with my daughter and start to get her used to sleeping without me, and also helped Dad tremendously. I do often fall asleep next to her for longer periods of time, and that helps me get good sleep too most of the time. Another way to get better sleep is to remove all devices at least an hour before bedtime, such as phones, TVs, tablets, and computers. In our modern world, I know this is hard, but this is essential, as the blue light is highly stimulating for the brain. It suppresses melatonin production, it alters circadian rhythms, and that's the trifecta for never sleeping again. So let's just not do that. Finally, move your body. Take a brisk walk, do a short cardio workout, stretch, do Pilates, just move your body. It doesn't have to be crazy, but it does need to be done. Movement is essential for good sleep. And with the energy gains you have from better sleep, you can improve on your workouts. But doing crazy workouts before you're sleeping better is only going to sabotage your body. So please take it slow. For more details on postpartum workouts, check out episode 5, The Postpartum Life, Rebuilding Strength, starting with the pelvic floor, and episode 7, The Postpartum Life, Workouts Are Different. And this is just a starting point. There truly is so much more to unpack here. And as I mentioned before, so many other areas to tackle, including finding good quality supplements, cooking better for you meals that don't suck, building back the strength you may have lost during childbirth, balancing workouts with your energy levels, and improving your energy levels for better workouts. Those two go hand in hand. I will absolutely cover these and more in my upcoming series, The Postpartum Life. I hope you will join me. If you found this episode helpful, please give a like and a follow and possibly a share. Let me know what you found most helpful in the comments. Remember, the point of this podcast is to create community for other moms, so don't be afraid to engage. You never know how you may help someone else. I'll see you on Thursday.